How is everybody today? Hello, everybody. Have you got your chai or your coffee? Welcome to episode 6 of At Home with George. And how are you guys doing today? I'm feeling a bit tired, to be honest. I didn't sleep very well last night. Yeah, I must admit, it's getting a little tiring now, being locked at home. But how are you all doing? Okay, is everybody keeping okay? So today we are talking about how to maintain your relationships whilst in lockdown. How many of you have been in fights with your spouse or your partner or your siblings or your parents or your children since the lockdown occurred and that you're in quarantine? It's a difficult time and it's a stressful time. How are you guys coping with your personal relationships? It's not always easy. I'm good, Sadia. How are you? It's raining in Islamabad, mashallah. It was raining yesterday in Karachi. Hi, assalamu alaikum, hello. Good. So, hi, Kashif. How are you doing? George, please stay home, lockdown for 10 days. Abdullah, I am at home, and I have been for the last 10 days, I think. So that's what we're talking about today. Your relationships. Is your husband getting under your feet? You're used to him perhaps going out to work and you are the queen of your domain at home, and now he is at home getting in your way. Is that frustrating? Marshall says, we give me times to each other in different rooms. That is a really important point, Marshall. I was going to get to that later on, but we might as well talk about that now. I think one really important thing about maintaining sanity and maintaining good relationships with your partners and your family is to make sure that every room has a designated function. So, for example, I don't know if you guys can see here, this is our living room, really, but it's sort of become a work area. So Kieran works over there. I'm working here on our dining room table. And so this living area, this living room, whatever you want to call it, has now become our work area. So this is where we work, and the rest of the house is separate from our workstations. So I think that's really important, Marshall, to have designated work areas or designated areas so that everyone knows that when you're in that room, you're working and you need time to work and not be disturbed. So that's a really good point. Thank you, Marshall. That's really good advice. Take good care of yourself. Thank you. What else is everyone saying? So far, we're doing okay, mashallah. I guess it's because after a long day at work outside, when people are physically and mentally drained, they tend to lose their temper and patience more easily. Oh, so you're saying that because they're not going out to work, your relationship is better. Well, that's an interesting perspective. Salam from Australia, Gorge. I think you spelled George wrong there. Wild Beauty, Assalamu alaikum, Wild Beauty, how are you? Hi, buddy, watching you from USA. It's 2:06 here, but Pakistan is my heart. Aapka dil Pakistan hai, haan, bilkul. So Nazim says, George, I'm a big fan. What do you eat? I eat pretty much anything. How do you manage stress these days? Nida's makeup counter. That's a really good question, Nida. Obviously, I think, first of all, don't try and fight it. Often we try and block out and try and ignore the feelings about how we're feeling. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that this is a stressful situation. It is a worrying situation. And that we need to actually acknowledge that and don't try and fight it. But at the same time, don't let it overcome you and succumb you. So one thing that you can do is just sit with that feeling of stress and just sit quietly and sit with the feelings of fear and stress, and then just try and do some deep breathing and deep meditation. And you will feel more relaxed after that. Maintaining relationships are getting out of hand in this quarantine. Reason, me and my younger brother just had a fight. Sibling things. Yeah, I can imagine. You're all cooped up at home, and all that pent up energy and has to be released somehow, and it often gets released in the form of anger. I think what I would recommend, Fudger, is make sure that you find a space in your house. I don't know whether you have a chat or a balcony or somewhere, or even just go out on the road, but obviously not next to anybody, and just find some space to be on your own at times, away from the rest of the family. And I think that's one thing that I would recommend, is that, I've been going out. We have a roof here, and I've just been going to the roof more often. It was lovely yesterday. We had rain in Karachi, and so I was going to the roof and just having some quiet solitary time with myself on the roof. So I think if you can do that, that would be great. Hi, George from Yorkshire. Hi, Mubasher. Stay at home, George. I am, don't worry. Did you miss with Shanira Akram or not? Did you miss Abdullah? I'm not following what your question is. Hi, George. Do you think you can do a video on busting some Pakistani corona myths? I'm shocked at some of the misinformation going around. Yeah, I can do that, actually. Let me think of what we can do on that, and I can talk on that. We have my son coming into the picture there, Fez. Hi, Fezl. Hi, good morning from Sheffield. Hi, Fazal. Where you live, and are you living in Karachi? Oh, yeah, I'm in Karachi. Exercise. Yeah, that's a good way of beating stress. Okay, so far we're doing okay, mashallah. I guess it's because okay, what are people saying about relationships? Have kids do some age-appropriate workout, fun videos to get energy out. Yeah, well, I've talked about that. So there's some exercises that you can do with kids. Otherwise, kids get crazy to pile up on energy. Glad you're online. How's it going? I'm good, thanks, Saliha. Like your top roof or balcony. Okay, keep silent, work out all together, watch documentary or movie together. Yeah, I mean, obviously have time together as well. But I think, one thing I think is important is, and I have been guilty of this with Kieran, as I've sort of, don't make assumptions about how the other person feels. I think that's one thing that you need to be aware of. So I'm not necessarily feeling the same way that Kieran feels, and we often make assumptions that the other person feels like the way I'm feeling. And I think that's one thing you've got to try and overcome when you're in this situation, and because they will be experiencing some very different emotions to you, and that assumption, when you assume that they're feeling the same emotions as you, that breeds resentment. And so my first sort of takeaway point is, don't make assumptions about how the other person feels. The second take-home point is keep communicating. Now, this is not something I'm very good at in the best of times, but it is important. Keep communicating, because this period of heightened anxiety will create strong negative emotions in people. And so be mindful of how you communicate and what your responses are to your spouse and to your partners and even to your siblings. And when you do communicate how you're feeling and how you're struggling as best you can. And use I rather than you, or say, for example, I feel whatever, X, Y, Z. When you say, rather than when you do X, I feel Y, or you make me feel X. So try and use I rather than you, because it's easy to shift into a blame game there. So that's another recommendation, is to keep communicating. As I said, I'm not perfect at this. In fact, I'm very bad at it, as Kieran will only tell you. But it's something we need to all try and improve on. I think the other thing is to bring some kind of acceptance that these are going to be testing times for all of you, and to accept that you are going to have rows, to accept that you are going to be in a confined space for a long period of time, and you will fight, and to accept that, and to not take it too personally, that when you do fight, it is just a victim of the circumstances that we're all in. You know, we are in closed and confined spaces when we are feeling stressed, and a time of a heightened global pandemic is going to make anybody stressed and panicked and anxious. And so you are going to fight. Just accept that. So those are some of the points that I would suggest. I was speaking to Kieran before. Actually, Kieran says, "So what are you going to talk about today?" And I said, "Relationships." And she said, "Oh, really?" And she said, "Just talk about the 5 languages of love." So that's another thing. If you guys don't know, 5 Languages of Love is a great resource, and it's by, I'm just trying to remember who's by. It's by a guy called Dr. Gary Chapman. That's it, Dr. Gary Chapman, and he talks about these 5 languages of love. If you don't know it, I'll put the resources online after this, so you can have a look at that. Essentially, he talks about words of affirmation, and find out what your partner's language of love is. He talks about 5 words of affirmation: act of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And it took us quite a while to work out what our respective languages of love. So, for example, Kieran's are words of affirmation and acts and quality time. So I need to keep telling her what wonderful work she's doing, and the fact that she is doing so much around the house, and as well as at work during this difficult time. Mine are physical touch and I think quality time as well. So yeah, those are my languages. So find out what your language of love is and what your partner's language of love is, and try and communicate in that language of love. So if your wife needs to be told that she's doing amazing work at home, do it. If she needs to see you do an act of service by helping with the washing up, or helping with the jaru, or helping with the pocha, do it. This is because there won't be domestic staff at the moment. Go and help, get off your bottom and help your wife do around the house, because that act of service might be your way of communicating a language of love to her. Spend some quality time together. So once the kids are in bed, just sit down and have that quality time together, if that's what the language of love is that your wife or your husband needs. spend quality time. So these are all the things that you can do to help improve the relationship. I'm now going to go back to the comments, both on YouTube and on Instagram. What is everyone saying? Happy Friday. Yes, happy Friday. Juma Mubarak. Good morning, sir. Great to see you. Juma Mubarak from London. How are you and your family? Yeah, we're good, thanks. We're coping as best we can. Pakistani schools, and you're doing anything about virtual learning education for kids? The school that Fez goes to, they are doing some virtual learning online, which seems to be going okay. Hello, George, sir. Hi. Why did you reply me? Sham Fassel, I'm replying to you now. Hello. How are you? I personally do yoga to stay sane and stop myself snapping at my little one. That's a great point. Taking that time out for yourself is not being selfish. Going and meditating or doing yoga or going and exercising allows you to be a nicer human being to the rest of the family. So I think that's a really smart thing you're doing by going and doing yoga and making yourself de-stress so that you don't snap at your child or your husband or whoever. Salam from London. Hi, Mohammed Salam. Why don't you reply me? I've replied, Shah Faisal. I'm replying now. Hello, buddy. I'm from Pakistan. Hi. Very true, mate. You're doing well. Who sneezed so loudly? Well, I don't know. Thanks for sharing about 5 languages of love. I didn't think I needed that. I need that. Husband is a doctor. Physical contact and communication is very limited during unprecedented times such as this. I remember obviously, if your husband's a doctor, he must be going through a very difficult time. So I think work out what does he need from when he comes back from his shift. What does he need from you? And also, you need to communicate, despite the fact that he's obviously probably going through a very stressful time being on the front line of this, you still need your languages of love to be met. So what do you need from him? Do you need words of affirmation, the fact that you're keeping the house running whilst he's in the hospital? Or do you need him to help, with in terms of active service, despite the fact that he's busy? Does he need to go and take the bins out? Or take the rubbish out? Do you need to have some quality time together, or physical touch? Whatever it is, find out what your languages of love are, or receiving gifts. I mean, that might be difficult at this time because shops are closed, and it's not probably the time for receiving and giving gifts. But what can you do to communicate with your spouse? I remember watching you and your wife hosting a morning show years ago. Yes, we did. Yeah. It's raining here in Islamabad. Oh, lovely. This was a good idea, George. Thanks for doing it. Hey, Hasib. Yes. They did a show with PM Imran Khan in a bazaar some 10 years ago. Yeah. Okay, now let's go to what is everyone talking about on Instagram. Everyone's saying hello, hello, hello. Oh, greeting from Germany. Assalamu alaikum, Germany. Okay, being human, we don't worry about what the outcome of this whole thing is going to be, but that we remind ourselves that it isn't just us, but the whole wide world is in the same boat. We'll figure something out together. Yeah, that's a really important point, is that actually accept this is a tough time, as I said earlier, accept that this is a difficult time, but also be slightly reassured that you're not alone. Everyone is going through this. I'm going through this. All the people on here now, right now, listening to this very conversation are going through this. And then we're all in this together. And I think that creates a sense of great solidarity in all of us. I think the fact is, Europe, Asia, North America, South America, every continent is affected by this. Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, Jew, every religion is affected by this. And I think the fact is that we're all in this together, and I think that's a great, opportunity for humanity to come together, and for us to feel that we are one. So don't get too despondent by the fact that we are all going through this. Sadia's written, unite everyone to do activities in the household together. Yeah, I think that's really important to maintain. The fact is, don't expect everyone to maintain the relationship, the roles and responsibilities they had before this coronavirus struck. I'm not expecting Kieran to do all the washing up and all the cleaning and all the laundry, because that's unfair, because both her and I work, and it would be unfair of her to be doing that just because she's the woman. No, I need to be pulling my equal amount of weight. So we take it in turns, that I work in the morning and she works in the afternoon. And in the morning, when I'm working, she's doing the chores along with Fez. So the kids are going to do chores as well. Fez has very established chores that he needs to do every day, taking the rubbish out and making the beds. Whilst Kieran does the the jaru. I do pocha, and I do the toilets, and I do washing up. And Kieran and Fez do the laundry and the jaru. So we have divided the roles and the responsibilities to make sure that at least the workload is evenly distributed, because it would be unfair to assume just because, and then Kieran and I take it in turns to do the meals, to do food. So try and do that, guys. Try and break up, because I think that shows, again, acts of service. It's a way of showing your love to all the housework. It's just not fair. It's certainly not fair in this time. What else are other people saying? One thing that's helping us avoid fights, Zenat is saying, as a family, is the gratitude that we can actually spend some time together without worrying about sustainability, when there are many whose lives have turned upside down. Yeah, that's a really important point, Zenat. I think one thing we all need to be doing is being grateful that we are healthy. If we're not got the coronavirus, grateful that some of us can afford to sit this out. There are lots of people that are certainly daily wage earners in Pakistan, that this is a real financial hardship for them. And I would highly urge people, if you haven't already, to donate to. There are various organisations that are giving out daily rations to these families that are struggling because they're not able to work. And this is a great opportunity to do that. I read somewhere that English Biscuit, English Biscuits, the guys who do all the biscuits here, Peak Friends, those people, they have reallocated their marketing budget to support and fund these people in these daily wages, and fund ration packs for people in need. So think about that. I think Zenat makes a really valid point. Be grateful for the fact that we are able to get through this, and hopefully we will get through this in one piece. And there are people that go through a much harder, more difficult time. I'm grateful for the fact that I have a house, or a portion of the house, that is at least big enough to not mean that I have my entire family on top of me. Imagine living in a very small one-bedroom apartment, and lots of people do. So I think we need to be grateful for what we have, and think about what a lot of other people are going through, and try and support where you can. Okay. What are other people saying? It's time for gratitude. Yeah, healthy and alive and all together. Yeah, Sadia, gratitude, absolutely. How lovely. I wonder how many Pakistani men will listen, George, Well, Shazia, what I wanted to say, oh, it's Shazia Khan Shah, my friend. Shazia, I would say it's up to the Pakistani women to raise sons who do pocha and do cleaning and do washing up. I'm raising my children to be, whether it be, there is no role that Fez won't do, that Maya won't do. They have to be both doing the washing up. They both have to learn how to cook rotis. They both have to learn how to cook. And I think it would be terribly sexist if I raised Fez to be an entitled boy that gets his own dishes given to him, whilst Maya both have to do chores around the house. So I think it's incumbent upon mothers to make sure they raise sons who do that and don't spoil their sons. I've seen it in many Pakistani households where the sons are treated differently from the daughters. The daughters make the rotis and are essentially domesticated staff from a very young age, and the sons are little princes, chota nawabs, that swan around getting whatever they want from Dadi and everyone else. And I think that's a really unhealthy way of treating boys because they end up being entitled, misogynistic idiots. There you go. Right, what else is everyone saying? Well, we talked about the 5 languages of love. What have people got to say about that? Hi, are you enjoying it here in Pakistan? Yeah, Allah bless you. Yes, I am. Thank you, Shah Faisal. How are you? Share your thoughts about the environment. It's getting great day by day because of no pollution. Yeah, I talked about this briefly yesterday when I was talking about some of the positives that come out of the corona isolation is the fact that, we're seeing dolphins returning to the canals of Venice, and China has witnessed blue skies after decades. I wonder what natural changes occurred in Karachi. Well, certainly one thing that I've noticed is that I'm hearing the birds more, and I'm listening to them every morning, and it's beautiful because normally they're drowned out by a backfiring motorbike or a rickshaw or some other noise pollution that goes on in this busy city of ours. And I'm enjoying the slow pace. So that's been lovely. But anyway, I want to focus on our subject matter today. We're talking about how to maintain your relationships during this time. And we talked about, obviously, the person feels. The coronavirus is unprecedented. It's not only on a societal level, but in your relationships. And you will have been dealt with testing times, but it will get better, okay? So don't assume. Assumptions, as I said, breed resentment, and they lay down false expectations. So the antithesis to assumptions are clear and open dialogue. So avoid mind reading what your partner is thinking. None of us have experienced this before, so we will all cope with this differently, and that's okay. So second point, keep communicating. There's so much going on and tensions running high. It can be hard to keep an open dialogue, especially if you're feeling scared or upset. But keeping your relationships solid throughout is important. So this heightened anxiety may create strong negative emotional reactions, anger or frustration, whatever it is. When experiencing these emotions, try and stay mindful of your responses, okay? What else can you do? As I say, accept these circumstances are going to be testing. They are going to be testing, so accept that. Try to put big arguments on hold. As I say, although it's normal to expect some tension during this ongoing situation, you shouldn't use it as a chance to vent on all your ongoing relationship issues. Some things can be parked. If you have an ongoing relationship problem, park it. This is not the time to be discussing this. Big and difficult conversations may need to be put on hold whilst you deal with the current situation, okay? So that's another point I would recommend. Also, ensure you're not working all the time. It's very tempting for if you and your partner are struggling to manage working from home, and your relationship. They're trying to make sure you establish a clear home life and work life balance. So one thing that we're doing, despite the fact that we're not working as many hours as we were before, because one of us is looking after the kids. I work in the morning, Kieran works in the afternoon. But what we do make sure is that by 7 o'clock, we stop work and we have a normal home life outside of the day ends, and that we have time together and time with the children. So that's really important. I think in terms of how to maintain relationships with the whole of the family, I've talked about this a lot. Establish a routine, that's really important. Set family goals and expectations. So sit down with your family, especially your children, and discuss how this is going to work. How are you going to establish goals and expectations? For example, children will be expected, as I said, to do homework at this time, but also help with the laundry and the dishwasher and or washing up. So try and set those goals and boundaries for them. As I said, designate areas of the house for work and for play, and make sure they're different. Don't avoid answering your children's questions about coronavirus. I think that's really important. Talk to them openly and honestly about it, because they're not stupid and they will understand that this is a time that that is challenging for all. And I think if you speak to them openly and honestly, that'll improve your relationship with them as well. So those are some of the thoughts. I'm just getting up here. Let's see. There's an article here that talks about 6 tips to help your relationship at this time. Let me see what this is all about. How to maintain your relationship. Make time for alone time. Yeah, we talked about that. Create a schedule. Yes, we've talked about that. Stay in touch with the outside world. That's important as well. Yeah, make sure you're staying in touch with your family and friends abroad or even in the city. Learn how to communicate. Yeah, we've talked about that. I think that we've talked mostly about that. So, yeah. So what is everyone else doing? Let me know. I feel that not enough people are talking to me. Rahman says, I completely agree. Salam, watching from Canada. Salam, hello. George, how are your parents doing in the UK? Oh, God, thank you, Ali. My parents I spoke with them yesterday. I'm a bit worried about my mother because it was her 75th birthday yesterday. So I was calling her up to wish her happy birthday. And she has a very dry cough. And as you know, that's one of the early symptoms of coronavirus. And there is nothing that they can do really, because the government guidelines are that you should stay put at home and carry on. Unless it becomes severe. So I'm going to be monitoring that quite closely and calling her up every day. But I'm slightly worried because she has got this sort of like horrible dry cough and is feeling very sort of fatigued and tired. So I'm slightly concerned that she might be having early stage symptoms. But they don't have enough tests, and the government advice, as I said, is to stay at home and not come to the hospital unless it is acute and severe. So let's see. I'm slightly worried about them, to be honest, because they are, mashallah, she's very fit and healthy, but she was not looking too great yesterday. Okay, let's get back to the topic of relationships and how you can improve and maintain your relationships here. Okay, it's a good idea. Thanks for doing this. Okay, women will be the first to object to their sons doing the pucha. By the way, when is a mop taking over a pucha? Pucha may be unhygienic in today's crisis. Not if you put, not if you're mopping in with Dettol or some kind of antiseptic thing. So for example, I'm doing the pucha right after this. When I finish this call, I'll take a photo and post it on my social media. I'm doing puja because Kieran has done the jaru, and how we've allocated the workload is Kieran does jaru because I'm 6'6", I can't squat so low to do the jaru, but I can do the puja, so I'll be doing puja, and I do the toilets, and I do the washing up, and I do the cooking, and Kieran does the jaru, and she does the clothes, washing of the clothes, and and also shares with the washing up and the cooking. So that's how we've allocated our chores. What are you doing? What are you guys? How are you allocating your chores? Let me know. So true. I agree with George. Sons should be trained as well. Absolutely. And these sons of yours, they're going to have to go off to university one day, and they're going to have to cook and clean for themselves. I was taught, and I just think that we spoil boys in this country and in this society, and it's not healthy for them, and that's why they become these sort of entitled boys. And I think I'm sure there are very nice men watching now, and I'm sure you're lovely, but treat your sons equally to your daughters, and then we will all be in a much better space as a country and as a society. Anyway, someone saying, I'm hugely concerned about the homeless communities clustered together in shanty towns. Yeah, that's a real worry. I used to do some work in Macha colony in Karachi. And Macha colony is essentially a slum, an urban slum, and it's very, very congested and very, very high populous area, and all congregated in a very small space. And you just wonder, how can those people practice self-isolation? Because if one of them gets it, they're all going to get very sick. Right. What else is somebody saying? We recently purchased outdoor furniture. Assembling that with my husband proved quite relaxing. I guess working on a project together can be good. Yeah, that's a really good idea. If you have an opportunity to do, a project around the house that you put off together, doing it together can be a really good way of bonding with your partner or your husband or your wife. Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. I hope she'll get well soon. Pray for all of it. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Abasi Sakra. Yeah, I hope I don't know, as I say, if it is corona, but it did not look good because she had this dry cough and it wasn't good. Anyway, what is everyone else saying? May Allah bless your mother with good health. Thank you. Don't worry, eat healthy, boost your immune system up. Yeah, she eats very healthy. She was also trying to show me that she was fit and healthy by trying to do a handstand age 75. So don't worry, I'm sure she'll come out of this fine, but I just want to check in with her on a daily basis. So, as I said, we're 38 minutes into our conversation. We are talking about relationships. How can you maintain your relationships in this stressful time? Because this is not the easiest time for your relationships, whether it be with your spouse, whether it be with your children, whether it be with your parents. How are you maintaining your relationships? And one things that we talked about are obviously, especially with your spouse, is the 5 languages of love, identifying what they are with your spouse and those 5 languages. And this is a very famous book written by Dr. Gary Chapman, and he talks about the 5 languages of love, which are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And you need to determine what your language of love is for your partner, and obviously make sure that you're doing that for them at this time. And I will be putting links and resources to that book online after this. So you don't worry, you're going to be able to see that after this. Other things that we talked about, obviously, in terms of improving relationships, is don't make assumptions about how the other person feels. I think because we may be feeling something completely different from how the other person in our family is feeling. So don't make assumptions and try and, because we won't be all experiencing the same emotions at the same time. And those assumptions often lead to breeding resentment. So try and check in with your spouse, with your children, with your parents, and seeing what they are actually feeling. Don't make assumptions. And that brings us to the second point, is keep communicating with your spouse and your parents and your children. This is a period of absolute heightened anxiety, and this will create strong negative reactions in people. So stay mindful of how you communicate with your siblings and your parents and your spouse. Don't provoke them. Try and stay mindful. Talk about, and the way you communicate. Don't push on the blame that you're making me feel like this. Just say, I feel like this, and this is what I'm feeling like. Don't try and get into a situation where you start a blame game. It's easy to start a blame game in this environment. Try and avoid that. 3 is accept the circumstances are going to be testing. It is going to be a testing time for all. Accept that. Okay, so just accept that. Anyway, give people periods of grace. Rows are likely to happen, and it is a testing time. So just accept that. And then the third thing I talked about was, the fourth thing I talked about was finding designated areas in the house for particular type of work. So if, for example, as I said, with our Kieran and my workspace, our living room has become our workspace, and make sure that you find dedicated areas for particular, for work and for play, and then make sure that you have a cut-off point from that work so that there is a bifurcation between your work day and your home day, even though you're at home all day. Try and find that opportunity for quality time with your spouse. Okay, let's go back to the comments. Handstand, that's amazing. Yeah, I'll try and throw a photo of that up on social media. I had to do a screen grab from my phone while she was doing it on Skype yesterday, or WhatsApp Messenger. So yeah, I'll try and share a photo of that on my social media. Why did you come to this in the first place? Why do humans need to be told about how to handle your relationships in the lockdown? Does it mean we have lost our social skills due to our lifestyle? No, obviously we all need help. I think humans need to be told, and we need to have a discussion. We need to have dialogue. I don't think anyone's perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. I need help in terms of my relationships and how to. That's why are you watching this, watcher? If you're watcher, gotcha. If you're perfect, please do not watch. But I think we all need to have discussions about relationships in this difficult time. ZJ City, my language of love. For my doctor husband, keep a bucket of warm water with Dettol ready for a shower, glass if salt gargles, and hot steam tea tree oil, disinfect and wash his outdoor clothes. So yeah, your language of love is acts of service. You're doing acts of service there for him. And I'm sure he greatly appreciates it. And what is your language though? ZJ City, what is your language? What do you need from your husband? Do you need for him to acknowledge those acts of service? And so is your language of love words of affirmation for him to say, thank you for keeping a bucket of warm water with Dettol for me, for my shower. Thank you for giving me a glass with salt gargles. What is your language? Because it's not a one-way street. It's fine that you're giving, and perhaps he's not appreciating that because that's not his language of love. So I would say is have a conversation with him, because perhaps he doesn't want you think you're doing that out of love for him, and I'm sure you are, but perhaps he's not appreciating that because that's for him not what he needs. Perhaps he just needs a hug or a cuddle or a kiss or whatever at the end of the working day. And perhaps that's what his language of love is. So find out from him what his is, and also what is yours, and communicate that to him. Hi morning. Hi morning. It's raining here in Lahore. Yeah, everyone says it's raining in Lahore. It was raining here in Karachi yesterday, so it's clearly travelled up the country. Hey George, you're great saying all this about relations. Thank you. Thank you very much. Salam from Denmark. Hi everybody. Oh, this is quite an international. We've got Canada. We've got we haven't had anyone from Australia yet today. Denmark, we've had Germany, we've had lots of places. It's US, it's fantastic. Today we're talking about relationships and how we can improve them, or not improve them, but maintain them. Healthy relationships in this challenging time of lockdown and the corona pandemic, because when you're it is a heightened situation, and that situation causes heightened anxiety, and that's only going to have an impact on relationships, and it can result in a lot of negative emotions. So what can we do to improve those relations and maintain those relationships without causing too much friction and hurt and fights? I've just been talking about the languages of love. This is more for romantic relationships with your spouse. But those are, for those who don't know, words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And I will be sharing resources for that on my website or on my social media after this finishes. I've also talked about how we need to not make assumptions about how other people's feels, and because those assumptions breed resentment. So don't, just because you're feeling a certain way, don't assume what your other family members are feeling is exactly the same. And so how do you not assume that? By communicating. So that's the second point: communicate with them. These, as I say, heightened anxiety causes strong negative emotions. So communicate with your family and just check in with them and see what they're doing. And then third is acceptance. Accept the circumstances are giving, are testing. So make it, accept it. Okay, let's check in. Hope your family is safe and healthy. Yes, thank you. Love from Canada. Adab, love from you. Okay, so we have, so the woman whose husband is a doctor says, what I need from my husband is to stay clear of this virus at this time, to be honest. But yes, gratitude, which I do from time to time by chores done by him. Okay, so you want that act of service. Verbal gratitude. So you want you're looking for words of affirmation. Yeah, so your language of love is words of affirmation. Yeah. Oh, we've got somebody watching from Qatar. Great. So yeah, so yours is words of affirmation. So you need to be told that all the things you're doing for him, whether it be the warm water with Dettol and the cleaning of his outdoor clothes, disinfecting, in the hot steam with tea tree oil and all of that, you need to be told that is being appreciated. But what does he need? Because you're assuming that those acts of service are what he needs as a language of love. And I'm sure it's appreciated. I'm sure he likes it. But what does he actually need in terms of what his language of love is? Speak to him tonight when he finishes the shift. But I hope he remains healthy, and he is a hero for all of us. All the doctors and nurses that are on the front line of this are absolute heroes, and we should be saluting them every day and appreciating the valuable work that they're doing to save lives. And I'm in awe of how strong these people are, because they are risking their lives every day to go out and save other people's lives. So salams, adab, and great appreciation for the men and women of our medical teams across the country and throughout the world, actually. Hi, George. I'm Lisa from Peshawar. You're doing a good job. I love my mum, dad, and so is you. Yeah, well, tell them that. Perhaps you need to just tell them that, and perhaps Lisa, check in with them. How's your dad doing? Perhaps he's feeling stressed being at home all day. Perhaps he's feeling worried because he's so used to being in control with the family that he's now not in control, because this is something that is out of his control. And for a man, not being in control can be certainly a proud Pakhtun. I presume he's Pakhtun, I don't know. If you're in Peshawar, proud Pakhtun man, he's feeling like he's out of control. It must be very disconcerting for him. Check in with him, see how he's doing. Again, my point earlier about don't make assumptions of how other people are feeling. Perhaps he's worried. And likewise, check in on your mother. See how they're doing. Hi, hey, hello. Right, what is everyone else saying? I think my neighbor is entirely empty here in Karachi. My neighborhood is entirely empty here in Karachi. Yeah, I know. Love from Jinnah Hospital, Lahore. Okay, if you are, who I think you might be, if you're a frontline medical practitioner, I will say salams, and I'll say I salute you, because you guys are the real heroes here. We are in absolute awe and admiration of what you guys are doing on the front line. Right, I think that's it. I think everyone is sort of. George, did you watch English Premier League? Which team is your favourite team? I do watch the English Premier League. Obviously, I'm from Liverpool, so guess which well, I suppose you could say it's Everton or Liverpool, but no, my favourite team is Liverpool. Salam from Lahore, Tayyab, salam. Anyway, we're coming probably to the end here. I think we've had a good discussion today on how to maintain your relationships in this time of lockdown. I will be putting a few resources up online after this. I hope they're of use, and I will love you and leave you and send you all my salams and best wishes and lots of love and peace until we meet again tomorrow at 11 a.m. every day. You're going to be here with me at home until this finishes. So lots of love, guys. Bye-bye.